I'll get started. I know some people will probably join as we go along. Thank you very much for joining my webinar looking at the B2B marketing journey. What I'm hoping to go through today is sort of how the B2B marketing journey differs from a consumer journey, but mainly to give practical tips on what you can do at each stage of one of your sort of customers' journeys to try to help them along to become a customer and become a partner. I am recording this webinar, and there will be opportunities for questions at the end. So please put them in the chat or the Q&A, and we'll try to get to them at the end. I'll just go through a very quick introduction of who I am. I'll look at why B2B is different. Then I'll go through the G.R.O.W framework, which is the buyer journey, and then I'll give you some takeaways and practical exercises, which hopefully you'll be able to use to get going forward. So for those of you I haven't met, my name's Ralph. I've been spending my last 25 years in B2B marketing. I have a story about how I started my career. I was going to be a mechanical engineer in the Royal Navy. Thankfully, I decided to do something a lot easier and a lot more sort of, I think, focused on me as marketing. Previously, I worked for Kantar for 18 years, and I was the Global Marketing and Internal Comms Director, but currently I am the founder of RR Marketing, which is a fraction and work as a fractional CMO and board advisor. So let's look at how the B2B sort of works. A lot of you probably are aware of the AIDA, Awareness, Interest, Desire, and Action, which is the funnel of trying to get people to know who you are all the way down to purchasing, which is a brilliant funnel, but very much focused on consumer. And it doesn't always really work so well when you're looking at B2B. Decisions really aren't as simple as that. They often involve the whole teams rather than just individuals. They're very much more data-driven, trust-driven, and internally they have to be justified to third parties. So a lot of that data needs to be sort of able to be understood and transferred. We do know that buying cycles can take months and sometimes years, so it's an ongoing process. And I think what critically, proof of return on investment and trust actually, I think, carry more weight than advertising. So for that reason, I created what my buyer journey called G.R.O.W. And this is really looking at how I feel that business to business purchasers and customers actually go through the cycle of identifying and working with a supplier. And the four main stages of that one, and I'm going to go through each of them in turn. But the first stage is growing curious. And this is when they're sort of learning and exploring about what they want to do, what they need out there. Second one is recognizing needs, is when they start identifying they have an issue or a problem or actually need some help. The options evaluation. This is where they've actually decided to make a decision and they're going to be going with someone. So where they start comparing and justifying. And the final one, which is working in partnership. And this is what happens after the sale and often an area that is overlooked. So I think the real key difference is I think funnels try to push you down to a decision. And I think what I've seen and gone forward is the G.R.O.W really is about how they follow a journey and helping them along all the different stages. And what we have seen is certainly with B2B customers, they jump around on this. So they might be ops and evaluation, growing curious, recognizing needs. So it isn't a very sort of straight linear path. And one of the interesting things I think I kind of see that most of marketing focuses on the O, the options evaluation. This is where a lot of the effort goes in. So it's proposals, pitches, brochures, all that area to try to push them over the edge. And I think when you do that, I think you're kind of missing a lot of the opportunity at the beginning because when they get to ops evaluation, they kind of made a decision already. They may only have two suppliers, but they've already started to look at, they've started looking and they've built their trust about them from the other stages. So I think if you do look at your marketing and only shows up at that sort of area, I think you're kind of missing a big trick here because the decision already has started to take shape and it is um, an area that you might be setting yourself up to be a disadvantage. So let's go through each of the stages. Well, the first one is growing curious. And I think this is probably the biggest group of people. And they're not actually out there looking to buy anything. They don't think they've got a problem. They just are looking to see what's going on out there. They're seeing what other people are doing. They're learning about what could happen. And I think they're almost just looking for that aha moment is when they go, oh, that's interesting. So it's really sort of a massive group of people that are just looking around. And I think one of the things that marketers do quite often this is when they sort of up in this area, they start pushing their products too early. They start jumping in and say, giving this is our solution, this is our product. And actually, people aren't really ready for that. They're just really wanting to be educated. So I think what marketing really needs to focus on there is how do you educate? How do you give them information? So I always say educate, don't sell on this one. Show off insights and products and actually just show that you understand. I think one of the great descriptors of this group is called LinkedIn lurkers. And these are the sort of vast majority of people that may not comment, may not even react, but they're reading your information. And I do remember having a conversation with someone and they came and started asking for a quote from me. And I said, oh, where did you find me? Well, I've been reading you for the last 6 months. And I hadn't even seen them on there because they hadn't actually interacted. So they'd been seeing the content being put on there. So I think that's the opportunity is just keep educating and don't try to focus on the sale too quickly. So really, what does this look in practice? So these are some of the things that you could probably do. It doesn't need to be complicated. You could share a myth versus fact post. Host a casual coffee chat with people, explain a trend, write a blog or do a video, and you might want to do this after this event, share 3 takeaways from an event you've been to. All this is about giving information, giving valuable information. You're not trying to sell here, you're trying to educate. You're going to try to show your experience. You're trying to start building that trust with people that actually they're not trying to get anything from me at the moment. They're just trying to help me understand what's going on. The second stage I look at is recognizing needs. And this is where the buyers have now identified that they do have a problem. They do have something they need a solution for, but they might not be able to fully define it. So at this stage, marketers quite often just jump straight into solutions and features. But if the customer isn't quite understanding what they want, this could be a bit too fast for them. So I think what marketers really need to do at this stage is show that you understand them first. Listen, make them feel understood. Get them to show that you understand their world first, and actually help them define the problem clearly. Because I think that is a really important aspect. You're showing your partnership. You're showing you're helping them. They may not use you, but if you're the one that's helping them define the problem, I think that you've got a much better chance. So again, don't rush into putting your solutions and features out there, but start helping them educate and help them understand their problems, and then that can get them further down the line. Again, what practical tips can we use in this one? Well, this is one of the areas I think is hugely underutilized in the business, and that's case studies. I think this is where you get your clients' experiences to help educate your prospects. So use case studies to show understand their world. Focus on the challenge that your clients have had. Focus then on your understanding of their challenge, then talk about the solution. And I think the challenge and the understanding are actually at this stage more important sometimes than the solution, because you need to be able to show that that you can listen, understand, and come up with solutions rather than just trying to put a solution that you already have. You can run a short how we helped X session and webinar. Again, if you can get clients to talk with you, much better than just talking on your own. But even if you can't, you can start talking about some of these things that you've done. Record a 60-second video answering a common question. So if you're getting a question about an area in your industry from a lot of people, why don't you just do a 60-second video? It doesn't have to be high quality, doesn't have to be tailored. You don't need a web company to do it, a video company to do it. Just put it up and post it, send it to your network, put it on your website. Again, showing that interest, showing that understanding. Or even create a checklist of red flags when choosing a supplier. Again, you're wanting to help them get to their solution, get to their understanding without actually feeling that you're selling too hard on this stage. The third stage is options evaluation. And this is where it gets a bit more serious. So customers have actually identified the problem and they've probably now narrowed it down to 2 or 3 solutions. So they're actually providers. So they're actually looking at these and comparing options and deciding who to trust. This is where decisions actually get made. But again, what do marketing often do? Well, they rely on vague claims like great service or faster service. We saved you money. That really doesn't help that one, because everyone can say that. What you aren't really showing is meaningful information. And again, you're building that trust. You need to show the impact it has in a real term. So really what you should be doing is replace promises with proof. So make it easy for them to choose you. So again, what does that mean in practice? Well, go and look at your website, go and look at your proposals and find 3 claims in there that might be quite generic and put real metrics. If you're faster, how faster? Are you 20% faster? You're going to save them money. How much money are you going to save them? Are you going to save them £100,000? If you feel that's confident, you put that in. Show what you've done with other clients, but actually put real metrics in there. Case studies again, I think my favorite thing. Quite hard always to get, but really important. Focus on outcomes in this stage. So you've got previously it was about the understanding, but the outcomes here. Show what has happened, how it's changed, and how it's made the client's life better. Offer to run a simple audit or benchmark report for prospects. Again, showing that what you can do and how you can change things. And then share client testimonials. Clients actually talking about how you've helped them is much more powerful. It's one of the most powerful things. So do talk to your clients. Whenever I sort of work with clients, there's always, and this is through my whole 25 years, I've always found that people are nervous to talk to clients about case studies and testimonials. And actually, I've very rarely found people get offended. They're actually usually very pleased to be asked because you're showing their work is valuable to you. They may not be able to do it, but if they can, most of the time they'll want to. So do go and talk to your clients and ask them a bit about what your testimonials and case studies they can get from them. And the final stage is working in partnership. So this is when the deal is done. You've actually got them as a customer. And this is probably one of the areas I think marketing forget the most. They do all this work to get them a customer, and then they kind of drop off the marketing radar, and then because you're focusing the other section. But I think this is actually an area that the real value can come from. This is where you can actually build that relationship, build that partnership. So I think what often marketing does, they treat the sale as the finish line. So that's it. Marketing's done. It's with sales. It's with the people that are going to complete it. They'll look after them. And I think that's a missed opportunity. What marketing should be doing is helping stay visible and keep adding value as you go along. Because what you really want to be doing is turning your clients into long-term advocates. You want them to be coming back and talking to you. This is how you get case studies. You keep adding value, keep adding that to them. They'll be more happy to talk to you about you in a positive way. So again, what does that look like in practice? Well, you could share a quarterly trend and insights report email to them. The one thing I would say, don't just talk to them when you're trying to renegotiate. That's one thing. I haven't put a don't do things, but that's one thing that I see a lot of people only talk to them when they want to renegotiate or re-sign a contract. If you have events or webinars, send them the invite first. Give them a VIP invite. Meet up with them beforehand. Give them, buy them drinks. Host a small round table where you can share best practice. And again, this you could bring 2 or 3 different clients where they could share best practices across each other. Again, don't focus on trying to sell there. Try to focus on education, giving them the opportunity to learn more and actually share what they do. And then send a personalized check-in at key moments. So if they've been working with you for 12 months, go and say thank you for that. Just go and show that you're actually thinking of them as more than just a customer, they're as a person. And it can make really big differences. So if you follow the G.R.O.W, what does actually good B2B marketing look like and what does it do? Well, it really looks at sort of how do you educate? You show up early and you help shape their thinking. You help them understand and define the problems. You prove what you can do and how you can help them. And you place promises with evidence. And then you become that partner because you're keeping adding value after the sale. And if you look at all of those, it's really about building trust. And in business to business, people generally buy from people. So if you can build that trust, you're making them stickier. They're less likely to go to another supplier, and it's just something that you can keep going. But one of the things we said was, I think most marketing does focus on one stage. They probably find it easier to do that. So the best marketing really has to show up across all of the stages and focus earlier, clearer and more consistently. And I can understand why a lot of businesses don't, because the G.R.O.W on the G, it's very difficult to see the return of investment on that because it might be something that's going into the ether for 6 months. But it is important. It's building up that trust. It's building up that experience. So when they do go to looking at recognizing their need and opportunities, they've already got a baseline of who you are and they trust you. So it is incredibly important, but also one of the ones that's sometimes hardest to justify. So I've given you a few ideas. So what I think you should look at doing is how you put that into practice. I challenge you, you can either do it now or you can do it afterwards, is to put this into practice. So for each stage, write down one content idea for the B2B journey, and then choose the one you think would work the best and do at least one of them each month. But keep it simple. You don't need to boil the ocean in this. You don't need to make it complicated. Just small steps do can. And then you choose what you think will make the biggest difference in your operation and for your sales. And what you can do if you want to actually put in the notes, the one thing you want to do this month, and then people can actually see as well. So what else could you do? Well, if you want to take this a step further, I've put together a simple G.R.O.W spreadsheet, and it's really just 9 questions, only takes a few minutes, but it helps you identify where you're working well and where maybe you've got gaps. Most people do discover a gap in their marketing they weren't expecting, and it allows you to sort of prioritize where you probably need to do some more focus. If you'd want a copy of this, just drop me a message and I'll send it across to you. So hopefully I've gone through the G.R.O.W framework quite quickly, but hopefully I've given a lot of practical sort of ideas and hopefully it's given you something to think about. But so overall, I think if your marketing only shows up where the buyers are choosing, you've already missed part of the journey, or actually most of the journey. Um, And good marketing, especially in B2B, shows up earlier, builds trust, proves value, and keeps the relationship going. So hopefully that has been useful and helpful.